Hey, my name is Shri, and I'm going to be talking about DirectDrive Now, an app that aims to revolutionize transportation for on-campus Greek life organizations. This was developed as a group semester project for my software engineering capstone course. Let's first take a look at the problem. In Greek life organizations such as fraternities, the system of designated drivers, or DDs, is broken. First of all, it's pretty inefficient, with riders often having to flip through lists of phone numbers just to find someone to give them a ride. Then when it comes to actually assigning people to drive, it can be unfair or inequitable, where pledges or new members are often made to shoulder the burden of doing the majority of driving. Then during the rides themselves, a large problem is that this process is pretty disorganized, with trips commonly veering off track from their intended purpose, such as for party hopping or running errands. This leads to unplanned, unaccountable, and possibly even unsafe trips for those in the car. To solve these issues, we built DirectDrive Now, which at the core is a mobile application that matches drivers to riders within organizations. A primary use case of this would be for frat events, like parties or nights out at bars. This automatic matching process prioritizes the riders in each driver's queue based on their location, taking the burden off of riders to find someone that'll give them a ride. However, drivers can also accept or decline ride requests, meaning that they can decide who they want to deal with. We also allow for real-time ride tracking, so the rider can see what status their current ride is in, giving more transparency and safety compared to the conventional DD system. Also, we have a feedback system for reporting incidents, which helps in improving the accountability of our DD system. Finally, we also have a text message interface so that guests can request rides during events without having to make their own account. This makes the system more easily adoptable, which could benefit event attendees that need rides very quickly without wanting to wait around. Building this app involved several technologies. For our front end, we used Flutter, while for our back end, we used a Flask web server. We stored our data in a Postgres database through Docker Compose, using SQL Alchemy for interacting with the database through Python, and using Alembic for our database migrations. For authentication of users and for authorizing our API calls, we use JSON Web Tokens. Messaging the user involves both sending verification codes during single sign-on and the text interface of our app, and Twilio was what we used for that. Geolocation was enabled by integrating the Google Maps API for Python, and we used WebSockets in order to allow for real-time communication between riders and drivers. Regarding our infrastructure, we used Docker for containerizing both the backend and the database, while we deployed these on Heroku. Alright, so let's take a look at how the app can actually be used. So we can start off by creating an account using our phone number for single sign-on. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then we should be receiving a verification code by text message. So it looks like we got a notification, and that is going to be 1750405. So now we can fill in our account details. So let's just start off by filling in a name, John Doe, and then the code for our organization. So in this case, that'll just be demo123. And here in this case, we'll actually also want to register this account as a driver, so we can fill in some vehicle details. So for example, we can put the make and model, so BMW 28i 2011. And then we'll also want to put in a license plate, as well as how many seats we have in our car to drive people around. We'll also go ahead and make a couple more accounts in a similar way. And for these two accounts, we don't want to register them as drivers just yet, so we'll just agree to the terms and then sign them up. So when we load into the home screen, as you can see, we can see a map, which is our landing page, and we can also edit our profile if we would like, which is just the same details that we entered in earlier, as well as switching to driver mode. So for this account, we registered as a driver, but for these two accounts, we didn't register as a driver yet, so we have that option. And then we can also look at some information pages, like About Us or Privacy Policy, but the others we'll take a look at later. So let's start off by creating a ride. So let's set John Doe to be available for ride requests. And now this device is listening for rides that are requested from other accounts. Here, as Joe Schmo, we might want to go over from San Fran to the San Jose International Airport, so we can just type in the address and then click it. After checking that the street name and number are correct, we can go ahead and click request. Now that the request has actually been put in, we can wait for a match from a driver. We can see that our request has been sent to a specific person, so we just have to wait for them to accept it. From John Doe's side, the request has come in, so let's choose to accept it. Now the rider should be shortly notified that we're on the way. There we go. And once we've actually reached the pickup location, we can mark it as picked up rider, and then we'll be on the way to our destination. Now suppose another user decides to take a ride as well. So they can enter in the Sunnyvale Caltrain station, and once they've confirmed that that's their destination, they can put in their request as well. So now we know that their request has also been sent to a specific driver, and shortly we should be seeing it from John Doe's side. There we go. So now that second ride has also been queued up for John Doe. So let's continue to click through the ride process for our first ride. So the rider will be notified that we're now at our drop-off location. And lastly, we can complete the ride once the rider has gotten out of the car. Now, as we can see, the first ride is completed, but the driver gets moved into the second ride since he previously queued up another user. And once they've arrived at the pickup, then they can continue to do the ride process just like the other one. So now let's suppose as Rocky Balboa, we want to get a ride when there are multiple drivers available. To do that, first we have to register another driver, so we can fill in the vehicle info like the make, model, and year. And then we can also go ahead and add a license plate and the number of seats in our car. After doing that, we can go ahead and switch our view to driver mode, which allows us to set ourselves as available for new ride requests. Then from the other device, we can create a new ride. Suppose we want to go to the library at Menlo Park. So we can just, after typing in that address, just click the address, confirm that the street number and name are correct, and then hit request ride. Now, shortly, like last time, we should be seeing our ride request be sent to a new driver. And we see our ride request from Rocky Balboa on Joe Schmo's screen. Suppose this driver isn't available, so then we decline the request. Then what we should now see is that this ride request gets retracted from that driver and gets moved over to the other driver, John Doe. There we go. So now this time we can go ahead and actually accept our ride request. And then the following process will proceed just as with the previous rides. Let's now take a look at the text message interface, which is particularly helpful if you need a quick ride without actually going and downloading the app. To get started, you can just text our DirectDrive Now text bot any message. So we'll just start off with a quick hello. Then we should receive a response from the bot that basically guides us through the process of getting a ride. So we can just start off by texting ride. And then after that, we just send in our start address, which doesn't necessarily have to be our current location. We also don't really have to worry about spelling or formatting because it automatically searches and formats the address for us. If it searches it properly, then we can say yes to confirm that that's the address that we want. We can basically do the same thing with our destination address. And then just like with the start address, we just confirm that it's correct. And then the bot goes and creates our ride. So just like when you create a ride through the mobile app, it assigns the ride to a driver, and then we have to wait for the driver to actually accept our ride. Now that the driver has actually received our ride, the driver can go ahead and accept it. And at this point, just like how the rider would get status updates through the mobile app, they'll continue to get text messages informing them about the ride in real time. Once the driver arrives at pickup, they'll be notified so then they can get into the car. And then from here on out, they'll be going with the driver to the destination. And even though they'll be in the car, they'll still receive text updates about any changes to the ride status for their own records. Once the ride has actually concluded, they can safely get out of the car. You can view the rides that you've taken, whether you were driving or a rider in the car, by looking at your ride history. For driver mode, we can just directly click on ride history right here, whereas on our other account, we can switch over to rider mode, and then we can look at our rider ride history. Whichever perspective you're looking through, you can see a brief overview for each ride. If you click on the information button for one of them, you can see the details in a little bit more depth, such as the driver, the rider, the pickup spot, the destination spot, and the time interval. You can also report an incident during the ride, which enhances the accountability of our system. For example, if the other party in the car did something that decreased the quality of the ride, you can enter in your comment and then submit your report. After that, this report gets sent to the administrators of your organization, and appropriate action can be taken accordingly. Lastly, if you want to log out of your account, you can just go to the menu sidebar on the home screen and hit the logout button at the bottom. Now, you can sign up or sign in again with any phone number. Looking to the future, some directions in which we intend to expand upon the app are further implementing organizations so that chapter executives are able to manage membership within their organization, as well as be able to see visualizations of ride data for that org. For example, being able to have a dashboard that shows you the distribution of rides per day for the past week within your organization. Additionally, we could add support for events within the app, such as fraternity members being able to see when their next event will take place, or be able to directly select event locations when getting rides. Lastly, we're planning to gather more users from Greek life organizations on campus. We've already presented and demoed to various chapters and the Interfraternity Council at Virginia Tech. We've also raised funding for this initiative, so we want to continue in this direction and increase the scale of our impact. Thank you for listening.